and we'll move straight on to the submissions. And I understand that the first three submissions are going to come to the table together. So could I invite Mike Fowler for Hagley Community College, Surinder Tandor for the Christchurch Multicultural Council, and Ahmed Tani for the Canterbury Refugee Resettlement and Resource Centre. Kia ora, good morning.
Assalamu alaikum. Tēnā koutou e te konihira o Tātahi, ko Mikw Fowler tōku ingoa, ko Ahmed Tani tēnei, ko Surinder Tandor tēnei. Kia tōma nei I ronga I te kaupapa o te rā, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Good morning, Mayor and councillors and our diverse communities. I'm Mikw Fowler, I'm Principal of Hagley Community College. I'm privileged today to speak alongside Ahmed Tani, Chair of the New Zealand National Refugee Association, Chair of the Canterbury Refugee Resettlement and Resource Centre, and member of the Council of Elders of the Muslim Association of Canterbury, and Surinder Tandor, the President of the Christchurch Multicultural Council. And in beginning today, I acknowledge the support of City Council staff Gary Watson and Paul McKeffrey. With the City Council's support, Christchurch's diverse communities and Hagley Community College wish to build a multicultural hub and to start that now. The hub is a tangible embodiment of what multiculturalism stands for in the city, of supporting all migrant and refugee communities, especially the Muslim community. It is what the called communities have wanted for several years and deserve even more following the 15th of March. And today is about the Council hearing the voices of our called communities. So first, what are we asking the Council to support? And I'd like to turn to the overview of the Hagley Community College site, and I've also provided that in a resource that councillors have on their tables too. You'll see the multicultural hub is really in a prime location on the corner of St Asaph and Stewart Street, and we have jealously guarded that through our master planning process which has occurred for the school over the last 3 years. Hagley is about to undergo a $20.5 million redevelopment. This site has always been preserved for that space. We have, and I can confirm from meetings yesterday, and it's not just yesterday either, that that land is provided free with the agreement of the Ministry of Education, from the top levels of the Ministry of Education. I'd like to take the Council through the nature of the spaces though as well, to give a sense from this concept design as to what the hub will do and be. Firstly, and you'll see with those red squares, a very prominent reception and welcoming area where our bilingual staff, our diverse communities team will be. A welcoming face, a welcoming language, a welcoming place right there, and it's about people. A meeting suite that will fill a range of functions and be used by a diverse range of agencies, and I'll come to that very shortly. We have a communal kitchen and the critical role that food has in the centre of the space, both for coming out into the exhibition space, or what's been called the street, that blue area down below, the circulation area, a place for students and community to share food. It also opens up into the cultural spaces too. And those 4 cultural spaces that I'm working through at the moment are all dividable. They're about 70 to 80 square metres, and they are partitioned so that they can open into one large space of about 450 square metres, but equally can be used really flexibly for a range of diverse functions that I'll turn to shortly. An exhibition space designed for display for cultural artefacts, other display parts from the community. That's a central part of that main circulation area. and certainly appropriate facilities for baby changing, for feeding, for washing, and I've just highlighted one there as part of that too. I think it's really important too for councillors to consider who will use these spaces. We've highlighted two areas here. On the left-hand side, the agencies and providers, and I'll leave you to look over that list of groups who will use those spaces via a hot seat arrangement, and how the large spaces will be used. The bottom bullet point there for larger events and celebrations, of course, but you'll also see above that diversity in terms of generation, the Canterbury Refugee Youth Council, and also in smaller groupings too. This isn't just a big space. It's designed to be used for a diverse number of groups across the week. It's also really important to stress this is concurrent use with Hagley Community College. And by that I mean these activities occur alongside what goes on in the school. This isn't somehow the building being given back to the called communities at 3 o'clock on a weekday. This happens all the time. That's a really important point, and it's something that we have said right from the start, and I think it's vital we share a common understanding of the unique nature of the hub, and this initial list I think gives some sense of how that's used. This isn't, and I want to disabuse this notion really clearly, some sort of additional building project that Hagley Community College has decided to undertake for its own benefit. This place is the place of culturally and linguistically diverse communities. It will be operated by a called trust. This is their place. The final thing I'd like to do today is talk about money. We can build this for $3.5 million total. And what I've shown there inside those red squares is what that will build and the size of that building. Now I want to break this down too even more specifically. The Hagley Board of Trustees has already committed $1 million of its uncommitted funds specifically for this purpose, to make the hub happen. And we are requesting today a minimum of $2.5 million to make this centre a reality. And I respectfully ask the Council and other funders to consider the importance placed on the hub and the time frame for placing that importance. I need to say now the opportunity is here. We have considerable professional advice that says there are huge savings to be made and efficiencies through designing and consenting the hub concurrent to our school development. To leave this until all the funds were there would be a big mistake and be considerably more expensive. And I think there's expertise around the table that know that very well. Look, I'd like to finish before I pass on to Ahmed Tani. Last year, as you know, we presented to the long-term plan. The outcome was the Council's recommendation that the Community Facilities Network Plan be completed and a review be completed into the project, which has occurred. And that report, I understand, will shortly be circulated to the Social, Community Development and Housing Committees. And look, I do remind councillors that there is a clear mandate from called communities for the multicultural hub. And that's evident in a range of ways. The 2017 Opus feasibility study that was commissioned both by council funding and by Hagley funding, a really important document. Our presentation to the Council last year and the many presentations which came through in support of a hub when we spoke to the long-term plan. It's again demonstrated this year by submissions from Ahmed and Surinder, who represent our migrant and refugee communities and who speak to why those people need this hub and need it now. We've all heard fund holders say they'll consult with communities about what they want. Now, we applaud that need for due diligence. This isn't about knee-jerk responses, but And of course, the multiple needs of the Muslim community must be addressed and addressed long term. But we return to the multicultural hub, which is our focus today, and we ask, how much longer do the communities need to say they need this hub? Tēnā koutou. Thank you, Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be on you all. Honorable Leanne Denzel, the Mayor of Christchurch, respectful councillors of Christchurch City, the multicultural society who is here today to support this multicultural center, Gary and Claire who work hard with us and always supporting the refugee and migrant society, I would like to say to you, thank you, all of you, to listen to us and to come to this important session of the Christchurch City Council Chamber. My name is Ahmed Tani. I am the chair of New Zealand National Refugee Association, which connected to the all regions settled by the refugees background. It's hard work. And also I am actually the chair of Canterbury Refugee Resettlement and Resource Center. We are working with a lot of different cultures, different society, different beliefs, and different languages, and we try to put together in one and go forward to integrate into the mainstream society. I believe New Zealand society is one, and we go forward in one. As a person, I am supporting this hub because of the experience that we have as a people, as a communities, as a societies. We need a place that we come together and to exercise our cultures and to learn, every one of us, from their own cultures. We need a place that we come together and have a cup of tea together and we talk to each other. When you have a cup of tea and talk to each other, the barrier is gone. People, they know each other. And that's why I support that every ethnic society to know each other and to have got a place to exercise their own cultures, their own language, and to know the others. If we don't know each other, we will never be a one. And that's the main thing that I actually wanted to support. Secondly, I support this multicultural hub. Hagley geographically is the center of the city. Everybody can come easily. Those who have no cars, they come through a public transport, which always goes through Hagley, and it's easy. Everywhere you come. And that's the other point I support. It's every single person can come easily. Our young people, women, children, men, and elderly people who isolated their homes, they can come and they actually talk to each other in that place, and they actually get out from the home to talk to the other people. On the other hand, as a refugee background, for example, the people, like for example, the elderly people, when they came to the multicultural hub, they can exercise their own language with the other mainstream society. And that's also another benefit for the language. I believe it's a cultural exchange place that we can exchange our cultures. And that's the main thing, that we know, each of us, their own cultures. And it will be an easy place that we exchange our cultures. And also the culture is very sensitive, when the people, they don't know, your culture, they always, take a little bit back. But this is the place that we can learn each other. For other perspectives, I support. For example, on 15 March, when the incident was happening at our Christchurch Mosque, Hagley College, they opened as a center, their cafe. But it was too small to us. That, people came together and visit there to the hospital. It was too small area that, for about 1,000 or 2,000 people to host. If we have got that multicultural hub, then it was more easier and it was close to the hospital and it will be a nice center. Again, I support that, in this building, 4 or 5 communities, they can do on the same time their own cultures and they exchange, each other on the same time. As a refugee background community, we have got experience that we was a role model for all other settlement of refugee in Christchurch. And a good example, when we established the Homework Center at Hagley Community College, it was a good example that how every communities, they came together and they learn and they support their own homework. And this city, Hagley, was the first place that we established that, and all other cities, they actually learn from that experience. That's why I say we are the role model of other resettlement cities. It's a good opportunity. It's in your hands that you support this multicultural hub. You are part of the multicultural hub because we want to learn your culture and you want to learn our culture and we will come together. So it's your hand to support. And thank you.
Thank you. Surinder.
Honorable Mayor Leanne Dalzell, Deputy Mayor Andrew Turner, respectful councillors, council staff, and supporters of culturally and linguistically diverse communities sitting behind us. Tena koto, tena koto, tena koto kotua. Assalamu alaikum, namaste, and good morning, everybody. Firstly, I'd like to make few acknowledgements that the Christchurch Multicultural Council was established 30 years ago with the support of Christchurch City Council, and so this year we are celebrating its 30th anniversary as well as our federation. So Christchurch City Council, has been working for the ethnic communities, migrants and refugees for as long as 30 years, and we all know that, the Christchurch City is the first city in New Zealand to have full-fledged comprehensive multicultural strategy. It has a multicultural subcommittee. It facilitates Inform Group, the interagency network for refugee and migrants, and it has been supporting multicultural communities, for their projects and activities, in terms of funding and other support. So, it's, City Council is already doing so much for the ethnic communities, refugees and migrants, and And the other cities and districts in New Zealand regard Christchurch City Council as a role model, as Christchurch as a role model that, Christchurch is doing so well, in terms of providing services for ethnic communities, which promotes integration. And I would like to also acknowledge at this time the hard work done by our past members like Professor Kwan Go, Jim Fraser, Tini De Winter, Grace Hollander, name a few, and all those who are presently working for the ethnic communities. And I, Surinder Tandon, President of the Multicultural Council, has been working for the ethnic communities for over 20 years as a volunteer. Members of the Multicultural Councils are all volunteer. They are not paid even a single dollar. They spend money from their own pocket for parking and for, other expenses. But we are very passionate, serving the multicultural communities, supporting the city council, supporting the government departments, supporting our, other agencies working for the called sector. And so, see, the need for a multicultural hub is even greater now after the 15th March terrorist attacks on the two mosques. We did a presentation in this chamber last year. The purpose, and Mikw, explained the objectives of this multicultural hub, the usefulness, And so the attack on the mosque was not an attack just on the mosque. It was an attack on diversity, both religious and cultural, on our harmonious relations. And but the time after the attacks showed us our strong united diversity and harmony, which brought out immense solidarity, compassion, love, empathy from people of diverse cultures and faiths towards the victims' families and the Muslim communities throughout New Zealand. So we believe that this, immense support, was made possible by the hard work done by every individual, by every agency and group working for the ethnic sector and the wider communities, So we don't want to get that work ruined. We want people of diverse cultures and faiths to, celebrate and practice freely. And for that, we need to, strengthen our communities, fostering diversity. And we can, for example, the multicultural hub will enable us to bring people together, overcome the barriers of those, the groups which are sort of a bit reluctant to integrate their so-called silos, But multicultural hub will facilitate, to bring those sort of silo groups into the mainstream. And we also noticed that due to the nationwide support by people of all faiths and cultures towards the Muslim community and the victims, we found that the victims' families, the members of the Muslim community showed increased resilience because they realized they are being cared for. They got support from people. So this is the value of strong diversity. That when we have times of sadness, we're together, and when we have good times, we celebrate together, whether it's Japan Day or Lenten Festival or Diwali or Christmas, or Eid. So we are together. And Christchurch, as we have seen after the attacks, got together very considerably, and everybody felt the grief, felt to share support to the victims' families and Muslim community. There are lots of vigils and peace marches are organized here in Christchurch and all over New Zealand. And that was due to the strong diversity we have here, very strong interculture, interfaith relations. So we are already on track, to foster diversity and to gain results from there. And what we are now requesting is that, City Council to, fund for the development of the multicultural hub, which will enable us to strengthen our interculture, interfaith relations, foster diversity, and also it will give opportunities to various agencies and groups working for the ethnic sector to engage directly with the ethnic communities, the refugees and migrants, and it will bring results for the whole Christchurch community, So, Mike already mentioned that, there's a strong mandate from the ethnic communities, shown in the Opus report, and also the work recently done, the feasibility study for the venues has signaled strong preference for Hagley premises for the multicultural hub because it's a central place. As we know, after the mosque attack, it allowed us to have welfare center there, which was very, handy, very appropriate. And because people from ethnic communities, refugees and migrants already regard Hagley as a kind of multicultural center, the type of education, the type of programs they are running, So, on behalf of the people of Christchurch, including the multicultural communities, I, strongly request to the City Council to, fund the development of the multicultural hub, which will obviously, be the first multicultural hub in New Zealand. And as I mentioned earlier, all other cities and districts are already very envious of Christchurch that, we are doing so well here, we are, and I like to mention the point here that on 13th April, the senior ethnic leaders of the 22 regional multicultural councils got together here at Hagley College to, of course, condemn the attacks and to pay tributes, but also to acknowledge what Christchurch has done, what Christchurch has shown to not only to the other parts of New Zealand, but to the whole world. They were surprised that Christchurch being multicultural, it's got very harmonious racial relations, very harmonious cultural relations. So, we are already scoring a lot of runs, but I think if we have multicultural hub, it will, result in a lot more, outcomes, and it will strengthen our city even more. And just final point, the local government New Zealand, we have been talking to through our federation, has been, working very closely with us and regarding Christchurch City Council and Christchurch City as a role model for other cities. So I'd like to congratulate you all for your passion for the multicultural communities. So, it's, we are already there together, and let's go for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I've got Sarah and Jimmy, but I just want to acknowledge the fact that you've come to the table together to present across the board such a powerful submission. We all recall you coming last year with the long-term plan, and the reason that we've put this into the Community Networks Review, and we haven't had that reported back yet, but it's not far away. But the timing is so that it can coincide with the consideration of the annual plan. But my question is solely around it doesn't matter where the money comes from, does it? I mean, if we could work in partnership with the Christchurch Foundation, with RATA, and with other funders, the city could then play a role in bringing the funders together and achieve the balance, which is considerably less than it was. And I want to acknowledge Hagley Community College for its contribution directly to the project. But is that I'm seeing nods from the end of the table.
Absolutely correct. We'd like more than $2.5 million. Let me put it this way, but we're looking at this as a bare bones project. It would be lovely if there was more.
It may be that,
Yes.
Under the circumstances, it may well be that there's considerable goodwill and generosity sitting out there, and with a particular focus in mind, I think we might be able to get there. So, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Sarah, Jimmy, and Dion.
My
Phil,
question.
Yanni.
Yeah, my question's very similar to Leanne's, but just a little bit more detail. Two parts. Firstly, comment. It's developed significantly since last time, and I love it.
Thank you.
First one, the timing. If funding was approved for that bare bones sort of stuff, the
Yes.
2.5 during the annual plan, what would the time frame look like for actually getting it built? The document talks about being fast tracked, but what do you think the timing could be?
Okay. Look, thank you, Sarah, for that question. Can I take you back to this diagram here,
Yeah.
into the multicultural hub? If we had more than 2.5 million, we currently have an art block in relocatable classrooms that has been there for 35 years sitting on the site. We would move that art block to what is a car park and build the hub as one of the first things. So that gives a sense. The other major hubs, which you can see in the darker grey down there, the three of them towards the front of the school, Wainuku, Pukaki and Oripo, and the fourth hub, the multicultural hub, those first three would need to happen first, particularly Wainuku, so that we can then free up the land for the multicultural hub. In other words, the class that's going on where the hub is located go into Wainuku. We could alter that.
Yeah.
We could bring that forward, certainly. We have currently, because we want the economies and efficiencies of starting the process now, we've instructed our master planners to master plan this and put it through consent so that the whole Hagley redevelopment package will go through as one, rather than, and the hub's an afterthought with the costs of that. So in terms of the timing, I'm giving you two answers there. One around, we're getting this to consent stage over this year with everything else, so it's fast-tracked. The build, we would dearly love this to be the first cab off the rank, if I can use that expression.
Okay, but it's still going through the process. So there is time to be talking to, the second part was with other funders and things.
Indeed, absolutely.
But to get the certainty, for example, if we're talking to other funders at the same time, would an underwrite help at all, or does
It would be fantastic.
because then we could talk to other funders at the same time, maybe underwrite and then get things through, I don't know.
No, that would be hugely helpful.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Jimmy?
Sarah asked my question, but I generally another question would like to ask Mike. You particularly mentioned this the new the multicultural hub will be used for all those the information service providers, But how about all those different ethnic groups? If they want to book this one, whether they are eligible to use?
That's exactly, that's a critical function, Jimmy, within this. I wouldn't like to suggest that, and I'll bring up that slide for councillors again, that this is, we're just creating a space that is solely for agencies and service providers. That's something that will occur across the week, but the design of this, and I need to say too, that this is closely informed by the called communities. We have a working group, members are here and also behind us, a multi-generational group who've commented on this design. There is big input from here, and clearly the roles you are describing around groups being able to use that, that's a key part of this too. Hence the design to be able to split into smaller spaces as well as the large space.
And it also, if may I add, it also gives that, looks after cultural sensitivity issues, you know? Yeah, so culturally sensitive facilities.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Excellent.
Dion?
Yeah, thanks for that. Just one question I have. Last time you came to us was you said that there was about $4 million that the school was going to put in for an $11 million build, and now it's down to
Yep.
4, 5, and 3.5 in this. But I'm just wondering, have you compromised too much, or is it okay?
No, we haven't, Dion. It's a really good question. That what we came with last time was a concept design, an initial scoping exercise, which was a what if. Originally, that was predicated on, look, we could have some school buildings attached to a hub. There was an indicative cost, which you've accurately described. That was prior to our master planning process, where in the last year, the whole prelim design approach has meant that we could really rationalise, not compromise, I need to say that, what the space would be. So, and it's also really clarified the thinking around how this could work. So this isn't a sort of a second tier offering here. This will give us the size and the quality of what we need. I need to reassure you.
No, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cheers.
Glenn? You don't have to. I mean,
Well, I'm just thinking,
no.
like
Was
we've
it
got
you? Was it you that had
yeah,
your
yeah,
hand
okay.
up? Hey? Was it?
I had my hand up. and
Okay, sorry,
Happy
Phil.
to ask a question.
Apologies.
Thank you for your presentation, and Surinder or Ahmed may be able to answer this best. But with the multicultural hub, I think our council are really looking at how we can make this happen. And it's just a matter of when. But in terms of the goals of our multicultural strategy too, how in future would the hub be able to be a major connecting point for the people in the suburbs who may never go to any central part of the city, the people who are isolated, and I probably mean particularly people from multi-ethnic communities?
Yes, yeah, no, it's a very good question. We are already, working with a number of libraries. You have appointed sort of what you call multicultural coordinators at some libraries, and we're working with Lilith and others. And so when we have the multicultural hub running, from there we wish to run some programs and activities at some centers around city, in the suburbs. For example, at the libraries or at other council venues, the community centers. Yes, that will be, that's on our mind, so that we can reach out to people, in all suburbs who are not able to, come to the so-called drop-in center or multicultural hub. Yeah, no, it's a very good, thank you very much.
Yanni?
Yes.
Thanks. Thank you for coming back and all the work, and thank you to everyone that's come and support today. I just had two questions. One is, just in regards to Sarah's question, I was just wondering, what's the date by which you need a decision, certainty on the funding allocation?
Well, about 10:30 this morning, yeah.
Okay.
No,
We've got, what, 10
serious
minutes?
comment. Look, and I can't put a firm date on this. Our master planning is going ahead for this. If we had some guarantee of underwrite during this year, in the next 6 months, that would be fantastic.
Well, that's good.
for
I just
us.
think it's helpful for us just to get
Yeah.
a kind of a date to work towards. So
Yes.
6 months from now, I think that's good.
And I mean, in terms of, to answer that another way, our 20.4 million is sitting there for our school redevelopment. We have a partial funding for this building here. We need to lock that all away before we can engage any building contractors. We've appointed a project manager, but to engage the next stage of contracting, we need the funds there before we can begin that. So the sooner the better, and 6 months is indicative. If it was within that, fantastic.
Okay, thank you. And the
Thank
second
you.
question was, when I listened to the speakers, the deputations, the submissions across the board, it seems that this is really a community wellbeing space as much as anything. And so just looking at the agencies that are involved, there's quite a few from central government. Have you directly approached central government for a contribution as well?
Yes, indeed. Our diverse communities team at Hagley has certainly made central government very aware of that. Okay, the Honourable Jenny Salesa, for example, is one example of that. We have been over years, not just post 15th March, certainly aware of the nature of this project. It's fair to say too that the commentary has been funding of programs rather than buildings that has come back to us, and I'm generalising with my answer there. That's great, but this is a tangible thing. We need to get off the ground for these things to happen. So that would be my response to what has come so far from central government.
So that would potentially indicate some support for the OPEX, for the running costs.
Yes.
And how far are you down the track in terms of establishing that called group that will be the trust that will run the facility?
The bones of that trust are here, Leanne, at the moment.
Yeah.
We haven't established the trust, but that will be this will be something that occurs formally during the next this year,
right.
within that time
frame. What I want to know.
And it does need to occur. I think one of the things, and while I'm not at liberty to disclose anything, and I won't, but I need to say too that I understand the report. The Network Communities report on this project has some very good advice on the nature of the trust, which we would strongly endorse too and follow.
That's great. Look, thank you very much. It's much appreciated that you made the effort to come back.
Thank you, councillors.
Thank you for
very
the
much.
opportunity.